Franz Kafka is one of the most influential literary figures in modern history. His writing is disorienting, surreal, and deeply unsettling. So much so that anything remotely similar to his style is now called Kafkaesque. But Kafka didn't just write about absurdity, he lived it. Born in 1883 in Prague, Kafka was raised under the shadow of his father, a domineering, hyper-successful businessman who saw Franz as nothing more than a disappointment. Kafka was anxious, sickly, and introverted, a complete mismatch for the towering expectations placed upon him. His father expected strength. Kafka gave him fragility. He wanted ambition. Kafka gave him introspection. And so, rather than finding his own identity, Kafka spent his life trapped in a system he never fit into. Forced to study law instead of pursuing his passion for writing, he buried himself in bureaucratic jobs, spending his days drowning in paperwork and his nights secretly writing in isolation. But Kafka never saw his own worth. He died believing that his work was meaningless, his stories left unfinished, his brilliance ignored. And yet, 100 years later, we're still talking about him. The world may have dismissed Kafka in his lifetime, but history would not. Kafka's work is unsettling because it doesn't play by the rules. It reflects a reality that feels eerily familiar. In the trial, a man is suddenly arrested and put on trial, but he's never told what crime he committed. In the Metamorphosis, a man wakes up one morning to find he's been transformed into a giant insect. Yet, his biggest concern is getting to work on time. There's no explanation, no justice, just a system that doesn't care. And here's the terrifying part. This isn't fiction. Kafka's world mirrors our own, a world where you fill out paperwork that no one reads, where you wait on hold for hours, only to be transferred to another department, where you work yourself to exhaustion, yet still feel like you're running in place. We laugh at the absurdity of the trial, but isn't modern life just as confusing? But Kafka's work isn't just about bureaucracy. It's about what happens to us when we realize the world makes no sense. His characters struggle to reason with the unreasonable. They search for answers where none exist. They try to escape systems that have already decided their fate. And isn't that what we all do? We tell ourselves that if we just work harder, if we just follow the rules, we'll finally gain control. But what if the system was never designed to be understood? Kafka suggests that the real horror isn't just the chaos of the world. It's the fact that we still try to make sense of it, that we keep fighting, even when there's no way to win. But here's the twist. Maybe that's the point. Kafka's characters never succeed, but they never give up either. Even when trapped in an absurd, meaningless system, they still struggle. They still search for meaning. And in a strange way, that's what makes them human. Maybe Kafka wasn't telling us to despair. Maybe he was telling us to embrace the absurd, to fight even when the battle makes no sense, to exist even when existence itself is incomprehensible. Because in the end, the world may be Kafkaesque, but that doesn't mean we have to be. Franz Kafka died believing his work was a failure, but his stories went on to shape literature, philosophy, and our entire understanding of modern life. And if a man who spent his life believing he was insignificant could leave an impact this profound, imagine what you might be capable of.